It has come to my attention that I owe the Tishomingo County Braves something. In lieu of them starting the season 3-0 and beating the Kossuth Aggies for the first time in a very, very long time, I promised flowers, and here they are. Despite plenty of turnovers and appalling weather, Tish got it done in the column that does matter. And for that, I can't apologize, but I will say, well done.
Right side, the 10 to the 5, touchdown! 6, going to the hoop, puts it up, puts it in! A fantastic play.
Welcome into the Magnolia Fields podcast. After a truly heartfelt welcome, we've got a new centerpiece today. And with it being the centerpiece, let's just go ahead and dive right in, Cody. Tishomingo County gets to 3-0 on the year, beats Kossuth in overtime, 14-7. And this was aesthetically, as far as like the weather and everything, this is an aesthetically pleasing football game. But as far as the actual X's and O's and on paper and on the stat sheet, this was ugly.
Well, maybe they have some flowers to make it a little prettier.
A little prettier. It does pretty up the room, don't you think?
I missed the helmet, but it looks good.
It does. It does.
We might have to give more flowers out so we can have,
we may have to.
some more centerpieces.
We may do a new section on the show.
We could. That wouldn't be half bad.
New segment?
Maybe we could be the florist and try to do the arrangements.
Maybe so.
It would go very poorly,
It would.
I imagine.
It would.
But back to Tish County and Kossuth, like you said, 14-7.
Yeah, low-scoring game, which we said it would be.
Yeah, and 7-7 at the end of regulation. Just a win is a win. And the way I see it, at least, is there might have been a lot of ugly plays, a lot of turnovers. Like you said, the weather was really bad. But a win is a win at the end of the day. And Tish County is 3-0.
They are.
So
beat Kossuth for the first time in years.
Props to them. I mean, we've kind of had our interactions on the social media pages with Tish County and all of that. But props to them. Give them some credit for getting to 3-0.
Hey, shout out Tish County. You're 3-0. Got to go beat Mooreville, and that's not going to be easy. Mooreville, again, we said last year, Mooreville really came out and surprised a lot of people. I think finished last season with 9 wins, and at the start of the season, no one really predicted that. This season, I think people kind of know a little bit more about what this Mooreville team is. They've faced some pretty tough competition here early in the slate, but I think that means they're a battle-tested team here early, and I think this is definitely the most competition Tish will have faced. Even if that Kossuth team was what a Kossuth team should be, Mooreville is still probably a little bit more competition.
Well, you talk about Mooreville kind of surprising people last year. Just didn't expect a whole lot, and they ended up having 8 or 9 wins. And it starts to get you to wonder, is Tish County that team, that surprise team this year? They've already got 3. Yeah. Do they go on and beat, like you said, a battle-tested team and advance to 4-0?
I mean, without playing anybody that's in your division or higher, it's a little tough, you know? I mean, they are 4A. So on paper, they should be winning these games. But the thing is, they usually, in the past, they haven't. And now they are, which is a step in the right direction. The thing with Tish is going to have to be, if you do go out and beat Mooreville and you do get to that 4-0 mark, then you've got to keep that momentum going. I mean, and they've got, like I said, and like the TikTok comments have said, new coaching staff out there this year. They've got a little bit of renewed energy, and that can be a very good thing for a program.
I think it might be a little more than a little bit of renewed energy.
I mean, it's a lot more.
It feels like they are.
Now, I did talk to somebody that I know who played at Tish. Went on to play a little college ball after that, actually, and we were texting about the game and everything like that. And he told me that this is the most a coach has ever been involved in the schedule making at Tish. So I think that can potentially lead to this kind of hot start. You know, you get to pick and choose a little bit more of who you're playing against. You play a bad 3A in Central. You play a 1A in Strayhorn. You play Kossuth, who at the start of the season, anybody would have said, well, that's a tough one. Kossuth, nowhere near what they should be this year. And as a result, Tisch County is 3-0, one of the better records in the state.
Well, Tanner, I'm going to give you an opportunity to either give Tisch County a lot of credit or an opportunity to give them more flowers in the season. With 3 games down, they've got 7 left. We predicted them 1-9 at the beginning of the season. What is your prediction to finish the season now with 3 wins? And I will read you the schedule.
Yeah, read me the schedule.
They have Mooreville, South Pontotoc, Amory, Ripley, Shannon, Belmont, and Itawamba Agricultural.
All right, so Itawamba's good. Let's go ahead and start that one off. I think they're the best team in the division. They just thumped Lafayette 40-0 this past week. Lafayette's 5A. I like Itawamba. I think that's a loss for Tisch. Mooreville, I think, is a toss-up. Okay? And I know I'm bouncing back and forth between the ends of the schedule here, but Mooreville, I think, is a toss-up. I think right now, if you look at it, this is a 50-50 game. Much like Kossuth was a 50-50 game. I mean, that thing went to overtime. So, you've got one loss there in a 50-50. As far as Belmont goes, now, Belmont interests me because we talked about them last week in that defense, and that is a rivalry matchup. Make no bones about it. So, I find it hard to give anybody the upper hand in that matchup. But I'm going to go on the side of Tisch in that one. Even though Belmont did just put up 38 on a good Myrtle team, I still think I'm going to side with Tisch in that one. I think when that one becomes a war of attrition, Tisch can pull it out. So there we've got 5 wins. And then I really think, I find it hard to give them maybe South Pontotoc. Maybe they pull that one out. But I'm thinking
it's at South Pontotoc.
It's at South Pontotoc. I'm thinking anywhere in the realm of 5 to 6 wins.
The real question is, so you had the loss against Itawamba Agricultural.
Yeah.
Shannon, Ripley, Amory, all district games.
Yeah. Ripley can't score, though. I think that's going to be a very similar game to Kossuth, and we actually were just talking to our crew. We're going to try to actually broadcast that game live here on the Max South Sports Network. That's going to be a low-scoring game because Ripley struggles to find the end zone.
Wonderful defense.
One of the best defensive teams in the state struggles to find the end zone. It's going to be a low-scoring game. Shannon, I'm iffy on what to make of Shannon. They took the 1-point loss to Houston, but we know that offense can put up points. So I think that one's a toss-up now. Is that division of 4A one of the more wide open in the state outside of Itawamba?
Starting to feel like it.
Because here's the deal. That second-place team still gets to host a first-round matchup. I think Itawamba wins that one, but I think it's anybody's race after that.
So you're sitting around 5 or 6 wins.
I'm sitting around 5 and 6. Yeah, 5 to 6 wins.
And a tough, well, really just a toss-up full of district games.
A full toss-up because, like we said, Ripley's going to be a close one. Shannon, we don't know exactly what they can or can't do yet. It's Jekyll and Hyde with them. I've got my eyes turned to that 4A division. I mean, I don't think they beat Louisville by any stretch of the sense, but it's an interesting division.
So, to all the Tisch County fans out there, 1-9 was the original projected record, updated to 5 or 6 wins. So, anywhere from 5-5 to 6-4 is what we're looking at now with that 3-game win streak at the beginning of the season.
Yeah. So, creds to the Braves.
Yeah.
Here's your flowers.
Hey, and if you top 5-5, 6-4, maybe there'll be more.
More power to you.
That
more
too.
More power to you. We're going to take a short break, come back and talk about some other games that we saw in the Friday window last week, including a shootout between Brandon and Clinton. All that and more right after the break here on the Magnolia Fields podcast.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, you know who to call. Call me. Remember, one call, that's all.
Welcome to the Richard Schwartz and Associates Magnolia Field Studios. One call, that's all.
Back here from the Magnolia Fields, Richard Schwartz and Associates Studios. Wow, that was an impressive one. Words are not wording today. You know what did word this weekend? Brandon and Clinton. Oh,
Wow.
my goodness. This game did not go into overtime before you hear this final score.
Should have been the game of the week.
Should have been the game of the week if we could have made it in that. If we could have snuck that one into the coverage area. 65-62. We don't get to talk a lot about the Jackson Metro area kind of teams because, again, that's outside of the Mac South Sports Network coverage area. We go about as far south as Louisville and around there. But, oh, my goodness, we couldn't deny that this was it had to be a fun game to be at. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, if you like offense and no defense,
None.
This was your game.
No defense whatsoever.
I mean, both of these teams almost scored 10 touchdowns apiece.
I mean, over 700 yards of offense, I believe, from Brandon in a loss.
From Brandon, which is, absolutely insane. Couldn't find anything on max preps from Clinton, but if one team had 700, I imagine the other one had quite a bit too.
Yeah, I mean, wow. And again, Brandon, a lot of people picked to play for that South Half Championship. I don't think this removes him from that conversation, but still.
You know, it's really crazy, especially for Brandon.
Yeah.
They had 6 different players score touchdowns.
Yeah.
It wasn't like one guy racked up 3 or 4. It was.
They throw it around, man.
I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah, they swing it. They throw it around at Brandon. I mean, you got to think.
Well, they had 5 on the ground.
Yeah. I mean, they share the rock. They share the rock.
Yeah, I mean, hey, good for them. I mean,
I would have loved to have been.
Tough loss, but.
Would have loved to have been in the stands for that one. Like you said, a tough loss.
Would have loved to have been in the booth for it.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. On into our thoughts about this week's actual game of the week, the one that we were at last Friday, Choctaw Central and Philly.
Keyshawn Ben. Dude can play. We've seen it the past couple of years. And for the Choctaw fans out there, if you're worried about losing Keyshawn Ben because it's a senior year, well, his little brother, Tyreek Ben, is a freshman.
Yeah.
And he is something to watch, too.
Broke off, I think it was a 55-yard
It was a
rush.
77.
77-yard rushing touchdown. I mean, and it wasn't even like a jet sweep or anything out wide, like where he just beat somebody around the edge. Credit to the Choctaw Central offensive line because they opened a hole he could drive a truck through. He had to beat one man at the second level, put a juke on him, stutter stepped his way into the end zone for, again, 77 yards. I mean, took off like he was shot out of a cannon. And that's a freshman. That's a freshman that's providing you meaningful snaps at the varsity level. And, you know, to flip the coin. In this game last season, we talked about how much offensive production Philly had. And the key member of that offense, Cameron Bowler, still had his fingerprints all over this one. I don't think they went to him enough.
No, I agree. They didn't. I mean, whenever he touched the ball, it felt like he made a play, something impactful. Whenever he didn't touch the ball, they were losing yards or picking up 1 or 2.
Yeah, and there was Rush played well. Number 6, I forget the first name. Rush played well.
Banged up and didn't see as much time as he probably would have liked to. But
I still think in the first half, Bowler had what? 2 actual touches and 1 target that he wasn't able to bring in?
Correct. I mean, he didn't have, I think, total on the ground and as a receiver, 5 total touches is what it was.
You have got to find a way to get the ball in his hands 20 to 30 times a game.
Yeah, because I mean,
point blank, 20 because that offensive line is not good enough to sit there and just run in a trio of running backs all game. They're not. They didn't get a push all night against Choctaw Central. So if you're Philadelphia, you've got to put the weight on Bowler's shoulders, point blank.
And you saw when you threw the ball to him at the end of that first half, he's making plays.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be the best ball in the world. Just get it in his general area inbounds, and he can come down with a play.
That's the thing is they didn't have a single man on that field that could cover Bowler one-on-one. And even when they tried to double cover him, they were actually able to make some plays because they had to pull over a safety. They ran a couple screen looks that did break for a big gain. So for Philly, I think that, you know, once they get in a division, they'll be okay. It's just, I think that, man, you got to find some guys that can block. You've got to find some guys that can block because defenders were living in the backfield.
You know, I'm going to say it, but I think you owe some flowers to Choctaw Central too, because you had Philly.
I did have Philly. But to be fair,
It was one of those toss-up
it was
games,
a toss-up
and we
game.
both know it.
And look, this is a 25-34 matchup.
Yeah.
I think if Jacameron Bowler gets the ball at all in the first half, we're looking at a game that's both in the 30s.
And not even that. I think if you Keyshawn Ben we talk about him a lot, but he does a lot. That's why. Not only did he have a ton of throwing yards, touchdowns, and rush yards, but you got to realize he also had an interception in the fourth quarter, on top of the fact that he recovered an onside kick, and then he had that miraculous fourth down conversion. So, I mean, the kid really did it all, and you take away one of those plays, that might be the difference of the game.
100%. I mean, we say it every time we watch him play, that his fingerprints were all over the game. No matter when we've called a game of his, he's all over it. And, you know, we thought it was going to be on the offensive end against Philadelphia, and in some ways it was. Playing quarterback now. Didn't do that last year.
No, he didn't.
But he's got an arm for it. He delivered some great passes, especially on the run outside of the pocket, and he made some of the best defensive plays I've seen all season. And then we haven't even talked about what might be the play of the year here in week 3. The situation is, go check out the TikTok on Max Out Sports if you haven't. It's 4th and about 21, wouldn't you say?
Something. It was 4th and a mile.
Yeah, 4th and a mile. Snap goes over Ben's head, runs around in the end zone, dodges about 4 Philly defenders, just hucks one downfield to Cruz Wilson. Some people say, man, got an illegal man downfield. Who knows? It's a broken play. It's a broken play that they somehow converted.
And, yeah, I mean, it was broken, a little bit of luck, a little bit of skill. I mean, you throw just about everything in it, because if you watch that play, there was a defender right in front of Cruz Wilson. It went right over his hands.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just luck. If he would have been a step closer to Cruz Wilson, it's either broken up or a pick.
Yeah.
It's broken, lucky, whatever you want to call it. It really falls under that umbrella.
Whatever you want to call it, it was fun to watch.
It was fun to watch.
It was fun to watch. And before we get into our game of the week, this week, I got to give a shout out to someone else. The Mantachie Mustangs are 3-0.
You missed one. West Point.
West Point also. That's more of a. That's not much of a shout out. That's a shout in. That's a rough start.
Had them on the agenda.
Yeah.
20-18.
20-18 over Noxubee. I thought West Point would win that one by a little more.
A little more. Well, you and I are calling that game the Philadelphia Choctaw game, and we looked at each other when Noxubee was up by a couple in the third quarter, and we're like, is West Point going to start out 0-3?
And that I needed to look this up before we came in, obviously, but I wonder how far back we would have to go to find a season in which West Point started 0-3.
I imagine quite a while.
I mean, they were close.
Yeah,
they were close. If Noxubee County's got a kicker, or if they are able to succeed on some conversions.
We talk about that. It kind of goes both ways, though.
Because West Point was the same.
Yeah, I mean, this literally was a game of extra points. Both teams scored 3 touchdowns. The difference, West Point made 2 extra points. Yeah. Noxubee County made none.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. So if you have a field goal kicker, this is an overtime game.
It is. And who knows at that point?
Yeah.
So Mantachie 3-0. West Point starting out 1-2. They're gonna have to impress a lot of people as this division slate rolls on. So important games coming up for the Green Wave. As far as Mantachie goes, they got Smithville this week, looking to start 4-0. How about the Mustangs?
How about them?
How about the Mustangs? Look at them go.
I'll say it. It's a cool mascot.
It is a cool mascot.
Cool name. Cool word.
It is.
And then a cool. Just. How about them though?
How about them? How about them? How about them? We're going to take another short break, come back and get into our actual game of the week this week. And Cody, I cannot wait for this one. The first time we'll be going back to this school after and what has unfolded to be one of the best stories in the state. So I can't wait. We'll get into it here in just a moment on the Magnolia Fields podcast right after these messages.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, you know who to call. Call me. Remember, one call, that's all.
Welcome back to the Magnolia Field Studios, brought to you by Richard Schwartz and Associates. One call, that's all.
Back here from the Richard Schwartz and Associates studios and the Magnolia Fields podcast, getting into our game of the week, where we'll be on Friday night. Amory High School, they take on Aberdeen, and this is the first time we'll have been back to Amory since the tragic storm that basically kind of sideswiped a lot of the athletic facilities there at Amory. I mean, just an incredible story, just an incredible town, fan base, and football program that have been through so much.
Yeah, it's never easy to go through something like that, but to see the way that kind of they've come as a community and everything and just put everything back and get things back to normal, it's really been impressive, because you and I have driven through there a couple of times just for work, and we've seen the progress, and it's really amazing, and you love to see it.
Yeah, and let me be clear, not everything is fixed yet. Not everything.
No.
The town still needs as much help as they can get, and there are ongoing efforts to do so. But Friday Night Football is back in action, and I think that, and as we'll talk about in a little bit of a segment we put out this week, I think that a game like this in a community in a town like this shows us how important this sport is, not just for us because it's our livelihood, but for the people of the community and the people around the team. It means a lot more.
Well, you talk about, I mean, sports, when you get down to it, it's not really a necessary part of life, but it does a lot for people, and it brings communities together. I mean, it just does a ton of things for people, and it's one of these scenarios where it has helped, and you've seen it in other stories across the country. It's just one of those things. It makes sense. You don't need it, but you need it.
But you need it. But you need it.
And it brings people, communities, states together, and that's the case for Amory.
It is. It is. Now, I will say, to get into the actual football of it, this is not the Amory team of 2 to 3 years ago that everybody was saying, well, if there's one or two teams that could beat Louisville, it's probably Amory. No, this is not them. However, they've been getting better as the years gone on. Started off in the Jamboree on August 23rd, 33-3 to a good Houston team. Lost that one. Lost to Pontotoc in game one, 21-14, one possession loss. Okay, you can take that. You don't want to. Then they beat Saltillo 37-23. Saltillo, not a great 5A program by any stretch of the sense, but you go up, you beat a bigger program. And then last week, absolutely stomping Caledonia 47-0. That's tough.
You'll take a 2-game win streak.
You will, and that's the thing is when is a win streak a streak? You know, is it?
Well,
I consider it
that's
3
fair.
games. I consider it 3 games. You win 3 in a row.
Take 2 in a row, then.
You'll take 2 in a row, and a chance now to go on a 3-game win streak, heading into a big matchup with Corinth, right? So you get Aberdeen this week, and Aberdeen themselves, I mean, they're Aberdeen. I don't think anything is gonna surprise us about this Aberdeen squad. I will say,
school that's 1-2. They
Yeah.
lost season opener at Shannon 46-0. They beat West Lowndes 40-12, and then we've talked about Calhoun City enough. They
Yeah.
lost that one 38-8. However, now that I think about it, though, those are the first points that were scored against Calhoun City all season long.
First team to find the end zone against Calhoun City all year long.
points, period.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's a win, sort of.
I don't know.
It's a moral win, maybe.
If you don't get beat by 30 in that game,
Okay.
yeah, fair. But, yeah, Aberdeen, you know, they're going to Aberdeen. They're going to be solid. When they get in division play, they'll win some games, although they do have a tough division. Actually, they may not win any games when they get to division because, listen to it, Nettleton, who, granted, is without quarterback now, transferred to Tupelo. Choctaw County's in that division. Not winning that one. East Webster, maybe not winning that one. Senatobia, maybe win that one. I don't know. Mooreville. Going to be tough.
Yeah, it is.
Going to be tough for
It's
everyone.
not an easy schedule.
No, it's not. And it does not get any easier with Amory this
No,
week.
it doesn't.
Amory is a tough, hard-nosed team. They're going to run the football. They're going to block well up front, and they're going to keep it between the tackles, typically.
You know, looking at their schedule, there's a name that pops up.
Who's that?
October 4th, Tish County.
Amory's, yes.
Yes.
Yes, they do play Tish
That'll be one to watch,
October
too.
4th. That will be one to watch. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that might be a division matchup.
It is.
Yeah, that's a division matchup. Amory's still good, don't get me wrong. All signs pointing towards them trying to make a playoff push.
And even though the competition hasn't been wonderful the past 2 weeks, it's after a 7-point loss in the season opener, you go back and you win by, 14? And then you win by 47?
And then 47,
I mean, it's improvement. So you take it the way you can. And, I mean, they're over 500 right now.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what we said at the start of the show, that this division is one of the most wide open in the state after number one. I think Itawamba's going to wear the crown in that one. I do. But nonetheless, Tish could be 4-0 after this week if they beat Mooreville. Ripley, one of the better defenses in the state. If they can find a way to just find the end zone, just score points.
Yeah. It's tough for Ripley. It really is. Because
anytime you get inside the 10 or the 15, just kick a field goal.
I mean, Ripley is a team that is 1-2, but they feel better because of how good the defense is.
Who they played too.
Yeah, they played Charleston,
who is a really good team.
week 1, lost 28-6. They beat Kossuth 14-0 week 2, and then you played Choctaw County last week, lost 29-3.
Who has the most dominant player in the state?
So-
Caleb Cunningham.
Yeah, and there's not much you can do.
I was going to say, you put 3 guys on him, and I don't think you're going to do much. And look, he's not the only player on that Choctaw County team.
No, he's
They've
not.
got some studs. They've got some real dudes out there at Choctaw County. I can't wait to get to one of theirs this year. I think we're going to try to catch them in East Webster.
I think that sounds about right.
Yeah,
We've got a couple of good game of the weeks coming your way.
we do. But again, I can't overstate enough how much I'm looking forward to getting back to Amory and, again, just interacting with the people there, because there are certain fan bases that really just kind of accept you with open arms. And Amory's one of them. Amory's one of them. They have been so gracious to us, specifically us two as the talent crew and everything. And they're just awesome to work with. We've enjoyed calling everything that we have at Amory, and they're always fun to watch.
Always fun to watch, really hospitable, just really easy. Just easy to work with, to interact with. It's almost like you feel like you've met these people before. They're strangers, but they're not.
Yeah.
Just because that's how they are. That's what's special about coming to a place like this.
And there are plenty of schools like that across the state. But Amory's for sure one of my favorite places that we go, and I cannot wait for this weekend. So with about 2 minutes left, give me your final score.
Final score. I think for the first time this football season, we might be picking the same team.
I think so.
I'm taking Amory, though, which I think is where you're going to go. But
Yes.
I'm going to say in the realm of 35-21.
All right, so I was going to I'm taking Amory, but I'm going to ballpark a greater margin of victory. I'm going to go I think I'm going to stick it 38-3.
Oh, wow.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, look, this is a really good Amory team. I would
is.
love to see them and Calhoun City face off. I think you're going to get close to that score.
We can only find out.
We'll find out Friday.
We will find out.
We'll find out Friday. As far as other games around the state, right before we go, because I want to get your take on this, Tish or Mooreville this week.
I was hoping that wasn't coming our way.
Oh, you know it is.
I'll take Tish because they're rolling at 3-0.
They are.
And I feel like that team has quite a bit of confidence.
Listen,
right
if I'm going
about
to play the bad guy, I'm going to play the bad guy. Give me Mooreville. Give me Mooreville. We'll see. In a close one. Make it a shootout. Let's have some fun.
So you took Kossuth last week.
Take a Mooreville this week.
Okay. So
Take a
2
Mooreville
weeks
this
in a row.
Hey, if Tish wins, I bet they ask me to pick against them every week.
You going to get them more flowers?
We'll see. They may be 9-0 with a whole bouquet before it's over with.
They're going to have to send you a ring if that's the case.
That's Now you're thinking. Now you're thinking. That's all the time we've got here on the Magnolia Fields podcast. As always, thanks for joining us, and join us on the Mississippi State edition here later this week. That's all the time we've got. Tanner Marler, Cody Blazak here from the Richard Schwartz and Associates Studios signing off.